Welcome back to another episode on the abandoned STI presented by Turn 14 Distribution. I felt like we're getting pretty close to this car being done, and then I looked over here and I thought, we've still got a bit of work to do. So where do we start with this giant pile of parts? Well, we've had a chat with Nam from Enviado, who's actually going to come by and give us a hand later. And from what we understand, step one is to install the transmission. Then the engine will go in after that with a clutch and flywheel in between. So really, I think today our objective is to get the engine and transmission bolted up to the car. And all the rest of this stuff will come after that. Obviously, there's a few things here that'll go in with the engine and transmission, like the parent engine mounts and the parent transmission or transmission mount and the twin disc clutch.
Ooh, twin disc DP.
Twin disc. When one is not enough, you get two. We'll explain why we went twin disc once we get to that point, but yeah, there is a whole lot of parts here, a whole lot of wrenching to do. So
if you watched a previous episode where we installed our Enkei NT03M wheels, you'll know that we had to use a 10 mil spacer to fit them up, and that meant we did not have enough thread engagement. So the first order up for today is going to be to remove these stock wheel studs and replace them with some long ones from ARP. And the job is actually pretty simple. All you gotta do is remove your caliper, put it off the side as I did, and take off the rotor. Luckily, we don't have to deal with any axles or any of the accessories that are on here. So this is gonna be a little bit easier than for most of you that have some of this stuff bolted on, but it's still not a difficult process. First thing to do is to punch out one of these studs. What you're gonna need is either a small hammer or go big or go home, as I like to say. And you're just gonna start tapping it out. You don't want to be really super forceful with it because you do have to keep in mind there is a bearing in there. So you just kind of tap it like that. There we go. And our first stud is out. You just rotate it to get it out here. The interesting thing is it would be easy and great if you could just slide the new ARP stud in. However, there is no good spot for it to actually go in. So unfortunately, what you're gonna have to do is loosen the 4 bolts that hold the whole hub in place here. And once we do that, we'll have just enough play and room that we can rotate our hub and slide this through. Okay, I've backed those out, I should say, enough where now, as you'll see, we can just kind of pick a spot and pull the hub. Oh, this side isn't gonna work, so I retract my statement here. I think over here is where, yep, there you go, and we are through. My setup here to put this on is a long sleeve, I should say, with a washer and then a old nut that I've got kicking around here. And what you're going to want to do is just pull it through. This is simple procedure. However, you do want to make sure that you're centered, because if you start pulling it off, it can go in crooked, and that is never what you want. So I'm gonna go ahead here and see what happens. Look at that. There you go. We've got ourselves a long ARP stud installed. So as you saw, not a terrible way to do that. Whew. Look at the shifter assembly here. It's the first time we've had this car up on a hoist and looking underneath, and everything looks pretty damn good except this shifter assembly. It is rotten. I mean, it's just surface rust. So what we're gonna do is take this off, clean it up, make it look like new again, and put it back on. Well, that was actually more work than I thought to take out. We had to assemble the whole center console, disassemble the whole center console to get this out. But now that it's out, I can see we've got rust kind of all over. It's amazing, look. Rubber that had covered this area, not so much. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There you go. Just like new. It's pretty dang clean. So I think what we're gonna do now is paint this Rust-Oleum, the paint of Rust champions. Hey, we got some action. Look at this, just throwing it on there.
It's time for some professional intervention, everyone. This is Nam from Enviado. If you're a beginner on our channel, I'm sure you know all about him. You explained to us already that step one is to put the transmission in first. So this isn't a car that really lends itself well to tranny and engine together going in from the top type deal?
It can be put in together. It just makes a bit of a nightmare. So we do have a hoist and a tranny jack, so it's much easier to throw the tranny in the car first, and then we'll put the engine into the transmission later.
Looks like Nam and PT are done putting the tranny in, and you even put the front axles in. These guys are efficient. It's amazing what Pete can get done with a real mechanic in the shop. I am here though to tell you about our new twin disc clutch kit from Competition Clutch. And twin disc means there's two friction plates in there, two clutch discs. As you can see, we've got one down here against the flywheel, and there is another one that's sandwiched in here. You can just see the edge of the friction material there. And these red painted bolts here mean this has all been preloaded, torqued to spec, so we're not supposed to take that apart.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Usually they come separated. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, so don't mess with those red painted bolts, everybody. And the beauty of this sort of setup is that you get a lot more torque capacity with twin discs. This one holds up to 750 foot-pounds of torque, but with two organic discs, you get the drivability of that style of clutch. So we kind of get the best of both worlds. At least that's what we're told. Have you ever driven a twin disc setup?
Yep.
And it does feel pretty good?
The Competition Clutch twin disc is actually really nice.
Yeah?
The pedal feels almost close to stock.
Really?
Yeah, that's the other big thing. It is a stock-like pedal feel, right? There's not a lot of pressure like you'd get with higher pressure plates too for that type of torque rating.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon because we are going to bolt the flywheel up to the engine now. This kit comes with a flywheel, obviously, which is a CNC steel flywheel. So it's not crazy lightweight, but I'm sure it's still lighter than stock. So let's bolt that up now.
So now we're just going to install the bolts for the flywheel with the red Loctite that the Competition Clutch supplied. And we'll run them all in and torque them down to the 65 foot-pounds that Competition Clutch specifies.
Look at these instructions. Color pictures. Color text that highlight the torque specifications. Competition Clutch doing it fancy. 65. And we're holding the crank side, I guess, with the
With a breaker bar, yeah.
with the NAM spec breaker bar.
Yep.
Okay, those are torqued to spec. But looking at the clock, it is getting late for this old man. I gotta get home and put my kids to bed. Nam has kids too, but he seems to have his family better trained than I do. So I'm gonna hit the road and let you guys take over. Please do a good job for me.
We will,
My
DP,
daily
don't
driver
worry.
needs to be properly assembled for me. So.
I'm going to make sure it's the best daily driver ever put together for myself, for sure.
So now that the pressure plate is on and all the bolts are torqued to the specifications that Competition Clutch wanted, we're going to get ready to install it. But first, we got to get the throw bearing in place. And this is a pole type clutch on these WRX STIs. And so there's a different procedure to installing these with the slider and the fork. And we're going to show you right now. So on these STIs, there's a plug on the side of the transmission here. Just wanna, so we've already taken this out when we pulled the engine out, but that's the plug right there. And what you wanna do is you wanna get a M6x1 bolt, just thread it into the slider pin here, and pull it out, maneuvering the fork a little bit. And we'll prep this with a little bit of grease. And we'll take the fork out and put the throw bearing in place, and we'll install it. Install all the sliders and the forks and get ready for the engine to go inside. So one tip I can give is that with these throw bearings, with these pole type throw bearings, sometimes if this fork gets caught out here and the engine's being put in, the throw bearing can actually slip down and get stuck on the actual input shaft, makes it hard for the engine to go in. So what I like to do is I like to grab a long wire tie. That way it keeps the fork forward, and that way the throw bearing doesn't go anywhere when you're throwing the engine in, and afterwards we'll cut this wire tie off and we'll clip the throw bearing in place.
For engine mounts, we are going with Perrin's engine mount setup. This is actually much better than the factory STI and Group N mounts because they use energy suspension polyurethane, and it's a 75A durometer, but the way the design is inside of it, it actually prevents tearing out, which is a very common problem with the Group N and STI mounts. So next up, we're gonna bolt these up, and then the motor is going in.
So the engine's in now, and one thing we didn't show you was that to ease the engine going in was using an axle stand underneath the transmission. And what you do is you lower the car onto an axle stand, and that tilts the transmission up, which makes it easier for this engine to slide in and clear the cross member. So right now the engine's in, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna bolt up the slave cylinder to the fork and clip in the pole type throw bearing and make sure that we have a clutch pedal before we go any further with bolting everything up. If you leave that to the last part where you're testing the clutch pedal, the last part, you could have the throw bearing fall off, or the throw bearing's cocked in the wrong place, and then you have to undo everything all over again. So right now all we've got is the engine in, so we're probably 4 bolts away from pulling the engine out if we have to. So right now is the best time to try out the clutch pedal. All right, so the engine is in, the transmission's in, and the clutch feels great. Next step is we're gonna put in the turbo kit and everything else around it and slowly get this going until it's up and running.
Sweet. Well, thanks so much, Dan, for coming out and helping us do this job. I don't think we could have done it without you. Well, we would have, but it would have probably taken us like 10 times longer. So thanks so much, man.
We are back at it here, and we've pulled out the transmission cross member because we want to replace this cruddy old OE transmission mount with all its soft, mushy rubber, which, takes away a bit of shifting precision, and replace it with, boom, this fancy Perrin one, which has poly bushings in it, which will obviously take a lot of slop out of the drivetrain and give you, I think, a more positive shifting experience. So that's our thought process on swapping this bad boy in here. Plus, just look at it. She's pretty. We like pretty mounts around here. So
it's all about new parts on this thing.
It is. It's a restoration project, isn't it? So let's bolt this on the trans cross member, and then we'll bolt that back up to the car. And then after that, we got a couple other things to do. The time has come to find out what kind of fuel pump's in there. This had a big motor in it, so it's probably got a big pump, but as part of the complete Cobb fuel systems kit that we bought when we did the Valvoline engine build series, so you would have saw some of the fuel lines in that kit, it does come with a fuel pump. And lo and behold, it's an AEM 340 liter per hour pump that's ethanol compatible. We know that because this green housing here indicates that it's an E85 compatible pump. So we know this will provide more than enough fuel. We've been told by Lawson at AEM this is good to like 600-700 horsepower, so no issues with being limited by the pump. And you can see there's just an access port here in the rear seat. I know it's the one on this side, the passenger side, because I just watched a video on Blake's Garage YouTube channel where he does a very good DIY step-by-step how to remove the pump. So if you're looking for a DIY, go check out that, but we're going to pull this thing out quickly and show you how to actually install it in the housing.
2 things we've learned here. Our gas tank is completely full, so as soon as we loosened the bolts or the nuts holding in the fuel pump assembly, look at this, it's been just like full raining of gasoline. At first we thought we'd just depressurize it, which is the second thing that we've learned. Look at the rust in this area here. This little structure that holds it in place. So we're gonna take this off and paint it up as well, because that's nasty looking. Not for what we want to do here, but we're just gonna let this drain for a bit, and then we're gonna pull out the assembly.
Well, the pump is out, and we have the world's fullest gas tank. Look at this thing. It is to the brim. I've never seen anything like it.
I guess the previous owner was ready to go rip here.
That's Weird,
with
eh?
the fullest tank of gas. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that was coming out the nozzle
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah.
But anyways, here is our assembly, also full of gas. So we're gonna empty that out. I sense a headache coming on here real soon, DP.
Breathing some serious fume.
And the mystery is solved. We have a Deutschwerks 65C, which is a 265 liter per hour fuel pump. So that means our AEM is a worthwhile upgrade. What you need to do, here's a quick little tip, is you're gonna transfer, well, they've got new O-rings that AEM includes, so that's not a big deal, but this little spacer almost, this plastic spacer, has to be transferred over onto the new pump. If you forget this, your O-ring is going to push down on the new pump and it's not gonna seal properly and you're gonna have a leak, which is not good. So what you wanna do is move this over and now we can put on our supplied O-ring, put some grease on here, get this back in here, and then back inside because it is starting to really smell in here.
Look at that, everyone. It's amazing what a little wire wheel action and some paint will do. We're tuning everything up on this car,
OEM
PT.
plus, my man.
That's OE paint match.
That's
We
right.
Paint match that thing. That's next level, attention to detail, everybody. We're ready for Concours de Elegance. What's the big one, the Pebble Beach or whatever?
Yeah.
This car's going to Pebble Beach, so we know we have a gas full or a tank full of gas, that's for sure. Although we should probably get rid of it. That's old gas, right?
I think so.
We got to drain that out. So we've also got the pump in, the rear seats back in. So this thing is a roller again, but it's not running and driving yet. So that is a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate all the support. And in the next episodes, of course, you will see the rest of those parts that we showed you on the table, that Christmas layout there, going into the engine bay and getting this thing running and driving.
In terms of rust, I think that's it, DP. I don't think I saw anything else there that was bad or anything to be concerned about that we wanted to do our poor man's restoration on. So I think we're good.